I understand that you've actually got a sign outside with choose life written on it. Excellent. And I want to talk to you tonight about choosing life. Jesus said in John chapter 10 and verse 10, I have come that you may have life and have it to the fullest. Some of you can remember the King James Version. Do you remember what it says? Come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Abundant life. And that's what I want to talk about just a little while. I have this fascination with tombstones. I love going to a new town, and walking into the cemetery and just having a look at the gravestones. How tall do you reckon that bloke must have been, Dad? At a grave like that. And some of them have really funny or interesting things written on them. Here lie I, Martin Inglebody, have mercy on my soul, Lord God, as I would do were I, Lord God, and you were Martin Inglebody. I think he must have done something bad. He's hoping God will be kind to him. Or what about this one? Here lies the body of Elizabeth, wife of Major General Hamilton, who was married for 47 years and never did one thing to disoblige her husband. Don't you wish, John Noel? All wives should be like that. Here's another one. Here lies the body of Anne, 1845 to 1893, wife of Ben. Here let her lie, now she has peace, and so does Ben. Here lies the body of Ezekiel Archie, age 102. Only the good die young. Erected to the memory of John McFarlane, drowned in the waters of the Leith by a few affectionate friends. And this is my favourite one. Sacred to the memory of Major James Bush, who was killed by the accidental discharge of a pistol by his orderly, 14th of April, 1831. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. And then I came across this one. Here lies the body of Paul Meredith, who lived a merry life and died a merry death. Now that one worried me because my name is Paul Meredith Rankin. Now if you've had to grow up for 50 odd years with a middle name of Mary, you'll understand that I'm not particularly impressed with my mum giving me that middle name. But my name is Paul Meredith Rankin. And sooner or later, there's going to be a tombstone that says Paul Meredith Rankin. And what's going to be on that tombstone? 2 dates, right? One's 1957 and the other one? We'll have to wait and see. But what I would like to suggest to you this evening is that while you have no control over that first date there, what your mum and dad did 10 months or 9 months before you were born is none of your business. But you have a lot of control over that second date on your tombstone. And that's what I want to talk to you about for a little while this evening. I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you've got a pen and a bit of paper, take it out and just write some numbers down on a bit of paper. Okay? So first of all, on that bit of paper, write down 87. Okay? So write down 87. And then I'm going to ask you some questions, and you will add or subtract. Do I need to, this microphone seems to be ringing a lot. Do I need to change mics or? Another mic. Shall I grab another mic? Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah. How's that? Okay. Someone who's got a blue Toyota, Charlie Tango, something or other, 508. You've left your lights on. That's a blue Toyota CT. Can't read the third one. 508. If it's your car, you've left your headlights on, and it's raining and it's a long walk home. Okay, we start with 87 years, and then we have some questions. The first question is, are you optimistic? Do you generally approach life with good humour? Are you able to let things go that are stressful? Okay, I go to bed and I sleep really well at night. And as John Noel will tell you, I'm always excited about what's happening in the future. My wife goes to bed and she spends most of the night worrying. Okay, so if you're someone that worries, then you subtract 5 years. Okay, so you start with 87, now you go to 82. You understand what we're doing? Next question. Do you have at least some family members who lived into their 90s or later? Okay? Exceptional longevity runs strongly in families. My grandmother died at the age of 93. So if you've got a grandmother, or a mother or a father, or an uncle or an auntie that lived into their 90s, you add 10 years. So for me, I'm optimistic, so I stayed at 87, add 10 years, go to 97. Okay? Let's go to the next question. Do you set aside at least 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week, to exercise? Muscle building exercise is particularly important. So do you exercise for 3 days a week, at least 3 days a week, for 30 minutes a day? Okay? That could be running, it could be swimming, it could be cycling, it could be jogging, it could be working in the garden. Okay? If the answer to that is no, then you subtract 5 years. Okay, some of you are now getting down into your 70s. Okay. Do you do things that are challenging to your brain regularly? It's important to take on activities that are novel and complex. Okay? Raising children is novel and complex. Okay? Or things that challenge you. I've just taken up hang gliding to do something a little bit different. Or are you studying a new subject? Or are you studying something at school? Or do you do lots of Bible study and fascinate to find out what the Bible teaches? If the answer is yes, add 5 years. Do you have a diet that keeps you lean? Okay? Keeps your body weight healthy. Carrying extra weight is not conducive to longevity. So if the answer to that is no, then you subtract 7 years. And finally, do you smoke? If you smoke, you subtract another 5 years. Okay? Some of you will have gone up to about 102. Some of you are going to be down into the 60s. But what I'd like to ask you are those questions we looked at then, how many of those questions do you have control over? Okay? All of them? Okay? Unless you shoot your grandmother, there's not much you can do about how long your grandparents live. Okay? Right? But all of the other questions there, you have control over. Okay? And that is what is the biggest factor in determining how long you'll live. Okay? Genes are a part of it, how long your parents and your grandparents live. That's only a small part. And one of the interesting things is that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has been talking about health since 1863. Okay? And there was a woman by the name of Ellen G. White who God gave a vision to back in 1863. And that was the start of the health method. In 1866, the Adventist church leaders adopted the gospel of health. As a result of that, a lot of study has been done on Seventh-day Adventists. There is over 250 manuscripts published in the scientific literature looking at the health of Seventh-day Adventists. And they have found that in Holland, we'll look at the males, Seventh-day Adventists live 8.9 years longer. In Norway, 4.2, Poland 9.5, California, America 9.4. That is the average Seventh-day Adventist. It's not the vegetarian Seventh-day Adventist, it's not the skinny Seventh-day Adventist, it's not the Seventh-day Adventist that exercises, that is the average Seventh-day Adventist. In California, lives 9.4 years longer than the general population. Okay? And they found over and over again that being a Seventh-day Adventist has real benefits. Okay? We have established, says Dr. Gary Fraser, who works at Loma University. He's actually a New Zealander. He's got a house down at Matarangi on the Coromandel. But Dr. Gary Fraser has been leading the Adventist health study for the last 30 years, and he says we've now established for men and women separately that modifiable health habits such as diet, exercise, past smoking, and obesity together account for a 12-year difference in longevity on average. How long? 12 years. To enjoy maximum benefit, individuals must change their dietary and exercise habits by about the age of 30. However, health benefits can be gained by changing at any age. Okay? So 12 years difference. And that's not just 12 years of existing. My wife used to work in an old people's home. And she had to take them to the toilet. And if she didn't take them to the toilet at the time, she had to clean up the bed. And a lot of those people didn't even know who their husband's name. And I don't want to live an extra 12 years if I can't recognise my wife. But what they found is that people who live healthy have a much shorter period at the end of their life when they deteriorate. So they're active and they're healthy for a longer period than those who don't have a healthy lifestyle. The National Geographic published this article in 2005, okay? And said that Seventh-day Adventists are one of the 3 healthiest people groups in the world. And they had more people lived over the age of 100 among Seventh-day Adventists than among most other people groups in the world. The National Geographic in 2005, and it said, the people who lived longest had 4 habits. They didn't smoke, they put family first, they were active every day, and they ate a diet that was based on fruits, vegetables, and grains. In 2007, the World Cancer Research Institute and the American Institute of Cancer Research published their report on cancer. And their report said that in order to avoid cancer, you need to have a healthy body weight, be physically active, avoid drinks that promote weight gain, eat plant foods, limit intake of animal foods, avoid alcoholic drinks, avoid preservatives, don't take dietary supplements, breastfeed children, and if you've got cancer, do the things above. The same message keeps coming over and over again. And I'd like to summarise for you, in the few minutes that we've got left, the health message. And it can probably best be summarised in the word creation. And each letter of creation stands for something that we're going to look at, and we're going to go through that now. C stands for choice. Okay? When it comes to health, we have choices to make. And sometimes those choices can be confusing. And sometimes those choices can be a bit scary, like my friend up on the screen at the moment. Okay? But the choices can make an enormous difference in how we live. And some of us approach choices different ways. This is a research project they did in America. And they asked 500 women to go to a shopping mall and buy a pair of jeans. And they asked 500 men to go to a shopping mall and buy a pair of jeans. The red line is the women, and the blue line is the men. As I said, that's an American research study. I'm sure the same thing doesn't apply here in New Zealand. But what that illustrates is that different people approach choices different ways. However, all of us have got choices to make. So C stands for, what does C stand for? Choice. C stands for choice. R stands for rest. Okay? And there is a lot of different types of rest that we need to get. Some of us spend a lot of time working at a computer. And we need to stop every 15 minutes and take a break from the keyboard and rest our eyes. Okay? We need to do rest. One of the things I've done in my office is I've set up the automatic printer on my computer, the default printer, to be the photocopier in the utility room. So when I print something off, I've got to get up and I've got to walk about 30 metres to get what I printed off. And that gives me a break from working on the computer. That gives me rest. Okay? Also, there's holidays. And the holidays are there for a rest. I had a look at my wife's payslip a couple of weeks ago, and she's got 11 weeks of holidays owing to her. And I tried to explain the holidays are there to be taken so we can have a rest. They're not like a bank account where we're trying to make them grow all the time. And the holidays are there for us to take time out and have a rest. And also the Bible teaches very clearly that God tells us that one day a week we should take a day off and we should have a rest. And the Bible calls that day Sabbath. And that rest is really important. C, what does C stand for? R stands for? E stands for? Good, I'm glad you can read. Environment. And there's a lot of talk going on at the moment about global warming. I saw in the paper just 2 days ago that May was the hottest May in recorded history in New Zealand. Okay? It doesn't feel like the hottest June in recorded history at the moment, does it? But it seems to be getting warmer. And there's all this stuff happening about the environment. And we read about nuclear power plants in Tokyo or in Japan that are leaking radiation into the environment. And we saw that big oil disaster, that oil well that blew up off the Gulf Coast. Was it last year or the year before? Last year in America. And there's all that environment. And we worry about that. But there's not a lot we can do about oil wells in America. But there's an awful lot we can do about our environment. We can control how tidy our houses are. We can control the environment at home. Whether the kids come home and it's nice and friendly, or whether the kids come home and it's arguments going on. We can control the environment in our office. Okay? Whether it's a pleasant environment to work in or whether it's an unpleasant environment to work in. And all those environments are vitally important. C stands for choice. R stands for E stands for environment. A stands for activity. Excellent. And exercise is vitally important. Okay? Our bodies were made to move. And there's an old saying that says use it or what? Or lose it. Okay? And unless we get exercise, we don't function as well. But exercise helps our muscles and our legs and our bodies to get stronger, but also our heart muscle to get stronger. And exercise helps us build up the circulation in our bodies, helps us to breathe better. All of those things are vitally important to health. T stands for trust in God. Remember when I asked you those questions, and one of them was, do you worry a lot or are you optimistic? And part of optimistic is knowing that there is a God in heaven who has final control. Unfortunately, He gave us, well, when I say unfortunately, He gave us the option to love Him. And some people chose not to love Him. And so bad things happened. We call that sin. But ultimately, Jesus tells us, and the Bible tells us, and John Noel's been explaining some of those to you over the last few weeks, that God is going to come back again, and He's going to create a new earth here. And that God has a plan for each and every one of us. That's trust. So C stands for choice. R stands for E stands for A stands for T stands for I stands for I stands for sometimes, before we get to that, sometimes some of us have a perception of God that's like this policeman. And we think that God's waiting to give us a speeding ticket all the time. And when I was a kid, we used to sing a song, "Oh, be careful, little hands, what you do." Remember that song? For the Father up above. Looking at, and sometimes it's almost like, "Oh, be careful, little hands, what you do. For the Father up above will squash you like a bug." And sometimes we get that feeling. But that's not what the Bible teaches us. The Bible teaches us that God loves us. Okay? And sometimes He needs to do things to correct us. Rachel got her driver's license about 2 weeks ago. And she started to learn to drive. And every now and again when she's driving, Dad has to reach over and adjust the steering wheel just a little bit. Okay? That's not because she's been bad. Not because Dad doesn't love her, but Dad does love her. And he also doesn't want to get any scratches on the car, but that's beside the point. But sometimes God has to correct us, yes. But He does that because He loves us like a parent does. I stands for interpersonal relationships. And the way that we interact with people is vitally important. God created us with the ability to love. And we need to love one another and love other people. And the relationships we have in life are fundamentally important to how well we do in health. Okay? Single people do not live as healthily or as long as married people do. Okay? And people who have been divorced do not live as long as people who have been married for a long period of time. Okay? And it's those relationships that are vitally important to health. O, the next letter of the alphabet, stands for outlook. And we can choose how we perceive things. Every time there's a car accident, the police go and ask for witnesses. And they can get two people who have seen exactly the same car accident, and they will tell different stories about what happens, because they have a different perception on what happens. And we can control our outlook. Let me show you some pictures. What do you see in this picture? Who sees an old lady? Put your hand up. Okay. Has anyone seen anything else but an old lady? A young girl. Okay. If you look here, there's a nose, and there's an eye, eyelashes, and a fringe, and a chin. Okay? Or you can look at it another way. There's a mouth, and a chin, and a nose, and an eye. It depends on the way that you perceive the photo. Whether it's the same photo. Okay, what do you see when you look at this photo? Some people see two people, some people see a vase or a glass. Same picture. What about this one? Okay, it's exactly the same photo, but simply by turning the photo over, you see a different picture. Okay? The way that we perceive the world is by... What do you see when you look at this picture? A lady in a mirror? Or a skull? Depending on the perception and the way that you look at it. Our look is crucially important. And we can choose the way that we look at things. Stephen Covey, who wrote the book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about getting onto a train in New York, sitting on the train, and he was tired because he'd just done a seminar and wanting some peace and quiet. And a man got onto the train with 3 kids. And the man got in the corner of the carriage where Stephen Covey was and sat down and didn't move. And the kids started kicking up a real fuss in the train. And then a lady got onto the train. And the kids were pestering the lady and making a nuisance of themselves. And finally Stephen Covey turned to the man and said, "Are they your kids?" And the man sort of shook himself awake and said, yeah. And he said, "They're making a real nuisance of themselves." And the man said, he said, "I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I suppose the kids haven't got used to the fact that their mother's died." And Stephen Covey said, "What do you mean?" And the man said, "We just left the hospital and my wife died." And suddenly Stephen Covey's perception of those kids changed. And of that man changed. It was the same scenario. The kids were still kicking up a fuss, but because he had seen a different perception, the way he interacted with those kids changed. And the lady, instead of being grumpy at the kids, picked up the youngest and sat on her knee and gave the kid a cuddle. Why? Because the perception had changed. And we can choose the way we see things. Right. C stands for? R stands for? E stands for? A stands for? T stands for? I stands for? O stands for? N stands for? Nutrition. Excellent. N stands for nutrition. And I would like to just quickly give you an example of nutrition. In this bag here. Okay, does everyone know what this is? Fanta. Bottle of Fanta. Does anyone have any idea how much sugar is in this bottle of Fanta?
Heaps.
Pardon? About how much? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, I'm running out of hands. If you look at the back of the bottle of Fanta, okay, you can see the nutritional panel on the back of it. And it says, sugar, how many grams does it say there? 74 grams per serving, which is per bottle. Okay? Now, do you know how much sugar 74 grams is? Okay. 1 teaspoon, that's a teaspoon, contains 4 grams of sugar. Can I have someone come and give me a hand? We've got a young person here. How about you, young mate? Could you come and help me? What's your name? Sorry? Betty? Bessie. You come and help me, Bessie. You come and hold that. And any here? You hold that one for me too for a minute, Bessie. In here we've got some sugar. Now how many grams of sugar are there in the Fanta? 74. And if you divide 74 by 4, what do we come up with? How many? 18. Okay. Let's see how much is 18 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, Bessie, you measure out 18 teaspoons. No, that's only half. Come on, put a teaspoon. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
It's almost half the cup.
14,
Half the cup.
15, 16, 17, 18. Okay? That's in one bottle of Fanta. Now, when you have a bottle of Fanta, what do you have with a bottle of Fanta? What do you have? You're going to have chocolate, don't you?
Yay!
Okay, so you're going to have a Moro bar if you've got Fanta. Okay? Now, how much sugar is in a Moro bar?
37.9 grams.
You got it there? Okay? If we have a look at the back here, it says in this Moro bar, sugar is 34.3 grams of sugar. So how many teaspoons is that?
Heaps.
34. Not about 9 teaspoons. 8.5. We had 18.5, so we'll put 9 teaspoons. Okay, Bessie? You put 9 teaspoons in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There you go. Bessie, you don't want that out. Okay. That is the amount of sugar in one bottle of Fanta and one Moro bar. Now, when I drive to work, if I'm running a bit late for work, I often drive past the kids walking to school. And I see the kids with a bottle of Fanta in one hand or a bottle of Coke in one hand and a chocolate bar in the other hand. And you wonder why those kids can't concentrate when they get to school? Okay, that's the amount of sugar. So what we eat is crucially important to our health. And one of the things that research has shown over and over again is that eating a plant-based diet is far better than eating a diet that's based on meat. A plant-based diet is far better than a diet that's based on meat. We started right at the top. Okay, here we go. That's a photo of me taken on my wedding day. Okay? That's absolute proof that getting married makes you go grey. But, okay, that was on October 5, October 5 this year, it'll be 25 years since that photo was taken. That's a photo of me taken about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh.
Okay? That's a photo of me taken just recently. I know the difference that making healthy choices can make. I used to get home from work and I was absolutely exhausted. Okay? I used to struggle to walk up a flight of stairs. My blood pressure was high. My blood pressure was about 145 over 100, which is way too high. My cholesterol levels were up. My resting heart rate was up. I decided that I wanted to see my grandchildren grow up. My oldest daughter is 21. She's been told she's not allowed to get married till she's 30. So I've got quite a long time to go before I have any grandchildren yet. But I realised that if I kept making the choices that I was making, I was not going to see my grandchildren grow up. Because I would die before I got to that choice, that point. And the choice was mine. I made choices. I made choices to change my diet, to eliminate a lot of animal products from my diet, to control the amount I eat, to get some exercises. And since I've done that, I've been able to do things I never dreamt of doing. A couple of years ago, a group of us, you might recognise Leonie, I can see you there, Doug McLeod, who's a pastor up here. A group of us rode bikes from Bluff in the South Island, that's at Bluff, all the way to Cape Ranga at the top of the North Island. It's 2,437 kilometres. We averaged 100 kilometres a day for 23 days riding time. If you'd asked me if I could have done that before I changed, no way I could have done that. I would have laughed at you if I'd suggested that. Just in December this year, I learned to hang glide. Hang gliding's amazing, and I love the feeling of hang gliding and flying. I couldn't have done, yeah, that's right, like that. It's amazing. It's tremendous. I could not have done that before I made the changes and made the healthy choices. And my life is so much better and so much more fulfilling since I made those choices. But not only that, I am so much better able to serve God than I was before. I've loved God for a long, long time, and I've always tried to serve Him. But I can do that so much better as a fit, healthy individual than I can when I wasn't as fit and wasn't as healthy. And God can use us no matter what the state of our health is. But if we can make choices that enable us to be healthier, it means that we can serve God a lot better. Those who live a heritage of whole person health live an average of 10 years longer. C is for choice, R is for rest, E is for, A is for, T is for, I is for, O is for, N is for. God wants us to be healthy. Right towards the end of the Bible, in 3 John chapter 2, it says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be healthy, just as your soul prospers." My challenge to you tonight is to think about the choices you make and to choose life. Thank you very much.